What's up, everyone? My name is Jesse. Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to share 5 reasons why I quit teaching. All right. So before I even share the 5 reasons why, I'm going to give you a little background history on how I actually started my journey as a teacher, and then we'll dive into the 5 reasons. All right. So a little bit about my journey as a teacher. First of all, I actually initially did not go to school to be a teacher. My degree, what I went for, was actually called criminal justice. All right, and the whole idea behind that, I wanted to become, some kind of homicide detective. First join the police academy, and then become a detective, which that didn't work out. And then eventually in 2020, I decided to dive into the education field. Now, prior to that, coming after college, I actually worked at an immigrant shelter. I worked there from about 2018 to 2020, so a good 2 years. I worked there, and then that's when I decided to make that transition, which during that pandemic, which is in 2020, into the education field. Of course, that was probably one of the toughest moments of my life, guys. Like the really toughest moment. One, because I had no idea what it took to be a teacher. Shout out to all the educators out there. Whether you're primary, secondary, or even a professor in universities. It really takes a strong and confident person to be a teacher, right? To be an educator. All right. So, immediately when I got in there, guys, the whole chaos of the pandemic, things were changing. Students were, some of them were at home, half of them were on campus, which was crazy. But all in all, I got through it. I learned so much my first year. I did a little bit better the next year, and then of course my last 2 years, I did my best. But there's reasons why I left, right? So, during my time in that, I actually taught world history. So I was in the social studies department, and that was a main subject that I taught all 3 years. Being a teacher, it is the most rewarding career to ever have, because you do see the students grow, right? You build. Not only do you teach the content, right, but you also build a relationship with them, right? Because some of I had about 5 to 6 classes each year, and in total I had about over 100 kids, and each of them have different personalities, right? Different personalities, different ways to interact with them. Some of them you have to speak softly. Some of them you have to be firm with them. Some of them joke around. So. But yeah, being a teacher was the most rewarding, but I didn't see myself in that position for the next 10 or 20 years, and that's what I'm going to share in a little bit. But I do. It was wonderful working with the kids. I did enjoy that part. Not only seeing them grow in their academics, but also become into young adults. Right, there were students there that when I started my journey, I taught sophomores, and literally this last year they just graduated. So it was just it's been a rewarding seeing them grow throughout their high school journey. And I said it before, I believe all my students have the ability to do great things in this world. Either whatever they want to do, whatever they want to accomplish, I believe they could do whatever they want. Right? So here are the 5 reasons why I quit teaching. So let's get into it. All right. So reason number 1 why I quit teaching. All right. First thing is teacher burnout. All right. So that's the most. That's the one I put at number 1, because that's probably one of the main reasons why I quit teaching is because of teacher burnout. Now, keep in mind, those of you that are not educators, and those that are, know that teachers wear many hats in the profession, right? We wear so many hats in the profession. We are not only the teacher, but sometimes we serve as counselor, the mentor, the role model, and some kind of authoritative figure, right? Sort of like a mom and a dad in the classroom. All right. Aside from that, there's not really a set time when a teacher gets to go home, right? So to put it more in perspective, of course, there is a set time that teachers have to go in, right? For me, when I was working at the district, at the school I was working at, which I'm not going to mention, we had to be there at no later than 6:30, and we had to be on duty by 6:40, 6:45. Now, throughout the day, of course, we do what we do as teachers, teach, depending on how many classes you have. And of course, at the end of the day, by 2:45, the day ended, right? Now, of course, you could go home, but most teachers actually stayed on campus to prepare for the next day. All right. Sometimes teachers will not leave until about 6, 7, or even later than that. So for me, my first year, I actually, again, I was new to the profession, so I really wanted to have everything on point. So that first couple of months when I first started teaching, I didn't go home till around 6, 7 at night, guys. I really didn't go home I went home around that time, but after a while, I started actually saying, you know what, I'm gonna go home, but let me take the work home, which that's a big no-no when you're an educator, but a lot of teachers do it, right? Also, teachers actually work at least 6 to 7 days a week, all right? And I know there's only 5 days that we work as teachers, but when we're not on campus, we're still working on things for our classroom, right? Whether you're preparing a presentation, whether you are trying to, prepare for next week, see what next week's, what is the teaks that we have to be looking for, things in that nature. Pretty much as a teacher, there's no days off. You're working either 6, 7 days a week. For me, I was working about 6 days. So I will, of course, work Monday to Friday when there was school. And then Saturday, I typically took Saturday off and I actually tried to, pretty much zone out anything that has to do with school. And then Sunday came around. Actually, that's when I started to prepare for the week, all right? And that Sunday, I really had to unpack all my teaks, which those of you that don't know what teaks are pretty much the outline that we have to teach in that particular subject, right? Teaks can be found online, which is the Texas essential knowledge that the kids have to learn throughout the school year, right? All right, aside from that, also, some of y'all might be saying, well, okay, y'all might work 6 to 7 days a week, but y'all actually have more holidays off than any other profession. Yes, that's true. But if you really think about it, like, because we work those 6 to 7 days a week, those vacation days are needed. And even at that, guys, a whole bunch of teachers actually take the work home and actually work during the holidays as well. I know for sure Thanksgiving and Christmas, those vacations on there. I know a lot of teachers that did work. For example, myself, sometimes I would open up my computer and try to get ahead before returning back on campus. So vacations are needed, but especially for teachers, I know the most vacation that we ever got is 2 months, which is the summer vacation. But I know most of the time it is 2 months. Unfortunately for the district that I worked for this school year, they actually cut their vacation a little bit short. So I believe it was a month and a few weeks, as I think towards the end of July, they had to start returning back on campus. All right, so I don't know how the other districts are doing it, but for sure, I know they're cutting off their summer. And that's because I think throughout the school year, they're going to have at least 1 week off per month throughout the school year, which that would have been fantastic last year when I was working there, but that's fine. For me, I feel like I'm not worried about that. I wasn't never worried about the vacations. I just really wanted to enjoy the position, and I really didn't see myself in this position for the next 10 to 20 years. All right. So aside from that, let me just give you a clear perspective of what a teacher goes through. All right. And those educators, if you have any examples or any comments, comment below. But the first thing I want us to look at is, let's look at a company. Let's all look at Amazon, right? We all know what Amazon is. We use Amazon at least once or twice. Myself, I use Amazon quite often. So let's just say, I'm going to name out some positions and then I'll compare them with what a teacher does, right? So Amazon has a whole bunch of position organizations. I'm not gonna go one by one, but these are the ones that I picked out, right? So of course there has to be a CEO, which in the past it was Jeff Bezos. Today I'm not sure who the CEO is of Amazon, but we're gonna just name the CEO. Another position is the software developer, delivery associates, and Amazon customer service representative. All right. Well, a teacher actually, if we compare it to a teacher and what a teacher does all those positions by themselves. All right. So anything from lesson planning to grading to being a presenter to being a mentor, from dealing with parents, looking over data, learning new teaching strategies, and the list goes on and on. Right. So to compare it, a CEO in the classroom, the teacher has to be the CEO of the classroom. Right. Teachers have to lay out the classroom rules and procedures. They have to be the leader of the classroom. They have to facilitate how they want the classrooms to be run. Comparing it to a software developer, of course, teachers have to know they have to use a variety of technology tools, right? And again, if you're an educator, there's thousands and thousands of different applications that you could use. Me, myself, I used a lot of applications since I was there. So a lot of teachers had to learn new applications, not only for themselves to help them in their content, but also some applications were required by the district to use. Of course, teachers heavily rely on presentations, whether you did your presentations on Google Slides, whether you did your presentation on Microsoft, what was that application called? Not Microsoft Word, but the other one, the presentation one. And of course, spreadsheets, right? We did have to use a lot of spreadsheets for data, to compare data, to see where we're going, to see how we can help the students achieve mastery, right? And of course, our delivery. So comparing it to a delivery associates, teachers had to find ways to deliver the content to the students, right? When I say content, I mean academic content, meaning that because there's over for my classroom, there was over about 30 something students in my classrooms each class period. Each of them had different ways that they learned, right? Some of them were visionary, some are more hands-on, some are more auditory, and teachers had to find ways how to pretty much diversify their instructions to hit all those students in the classroom. And that was probably the most extremely difficult thing I did as an educator, because once you create your lessons, you have to find ways to hit those target students, right? And that was the most challenging that I ever came about during my teaching career. All right. And of course, the customer service representative, right? As a teacher, we pretty much fill in that position as well, right? Not only are we dealing with conflict in the classrooms, right? Sometimes there's students that have a conflict within one another. Some students are distracting the class, but we also have to be dealing with administration, right? Which is our principals, assistant principals, counselors. Sometimes most of the time, or I wouldn't say most, all the time, they want to know what's going on in your classroom, right? So if there's a student that's either on some kind of contract or some kind of academic behavior, they reach out to you and pretty much ask, how's the student doing? What are the grades? Are they improving in the classroom, etc., right? And of course, parents, right? Sometimes we had to deal with parents, whether the parents want to know the updates on the students, they want to know why on the the application that we use for grades, which in this district, the parents had access to their children's academic grades. So they'll go on there and they'll check, why is my child, and they will reach out to the teacher either by email or a phone call, and they pretty much will say, why is my child failing your classroom? Why does my child have a 70? Why does my child have 100? And the list goes on and on. All right. So let's now move on to reason number 2. All right. Reason number 2, work-life balance. So guys, as a teacher, it was impossible to have a healthy work-life balance, right? As I mentioned before, you're working at least 6 to 7 days a week, right? Depending on what kind of teacher you are or what kind of teacher you were. For me, I was constantly working 6-7 days. For the most part, I would bring work home and do things at home as well. All right, but aside from that, I was constantly on my toes every day of the week. So what is so difficult was the outline of the objectives that you had to teach as a teacher, right? As I mentioned before, the TEKS. So you have a set academic calendar throughout the year of pretty much the pacing that you're going to follow throughout the school year, right? For me, since I was teaching world history at the beginning, we talked about the ancient history, which, ancient Rome, ancient Greece. We talked about the Chinese dynasties. But to put it more in perspective, you have about, for me, according to your pacing calendar, I had about 4 days to talk about World War II. All right. Those individuals, historians out there know that it does not, you need more than 4 days to talk about World War II. Right. You go on and on about different topics about World War II. You want to start off with, where the effects, right? We actually started World War II that set the fuse for all the countries to join in and fight in World War II, right? But, that alone would take you 2 days to talk about, right? Talk about the mass genocide that happened in World War II, the Manhattan Project, right? Any major events, you need more than 4 days to actually teach this particular topic, right? And it really shows that you really don't have time to touch on these subtopics of World War II, right? So it just appeared to me that we're pretty much teaching the kids to pass the test rather than actually focus on the knowledge part, right? And I can only speak for the district I was working in because, again, I was in the position to, I was pretty much behind the scenes working on that, right? So I guess it just depends on your school district, but for the most part, and stories that I heard from other teachers, it's pretty much the same thing, right? They want you to pretty much follow the academic calendar. They want you to have those TEKS completed, and of course the TEKS take what it's called a DCA, which is the District Common Assessment. It's usually every 9 weeks, and pretty much it pretty much tests students based on the TEKS that you're supposed to teach, right? So you pretty much have to go on a fast pace, right? Aside from that, there was not really any time for myself after work, right? After you come home, you're so exhausted that you barely want to do anything, right? You barely want to go work out. You barely want to, do whatever it is you want to do in your free time. For me, I still try to make it my priority to, put at least a few days to run, because I was running when I was teaching. I would try to put in at least 2 to 3 days a week to run, but there's other teachers that really didn't have the time, that really don't have the time to, really set that time aside for them to work out, spend time with the families. It's extremely difficult, right? I was so burnt out. There were days where I was so burnt out that I couldn't play with my dog, barely had time to spend with my fiance. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it. With reason number 2, it was an unhealthy work-life balance. All right. All right, reason number 3, looking into the future. All right, so guys, for reason number 3, I really during that time of teaching, I started to self-reflect a lot, right? Throughout my teaching career, I met multiple teachers, right? Some have been teaching for about 10, 15, even 20, or even past 20 years, right? For me, I kind of got constantly tired of doing the same routine year after year. And keep in mind, I only did this for 3 years, 3 full school years. So I felt like I was getting too comfortable. I feel like I wasn't really being challenged every single day. Year after year was the same thing. You were handed the same teaks. You were handed sort of the same applications. Of course, it constantly changed, but for the most part, you were using the same applications, same books. So nothing really changed. The only thing that changed were the students, right? Every school year, used to have to build another relationship with another group of students and so forth, right? And of course, there was no really ways you could move up as a teacher, right? The only thing that you could constantly move up is probably be the head of your department, which I was that the last year. But aside from that, it takes plus years, probably 10 plus years to start, becoming some part of administration, right? Which I'm not going to touch up on that because I really don't have experience on that and what that really entails. But so throughout my last school year, again, I started to self-reflect a lot. I didn't see myself doing this for 10 plus years, right? At this point, I was only doing it for 3. I felt like I wasn't being challenged enough, right? And I love challenges. If you continue to follow me on my channel, I enjoy and embrace challenges. I feel like people learn so much challenging themselves, but I felt like I was just getting too comfortable, right? I want to make a meaningful impact, but at that point, I felt like I wasn't doing any impact. I wasn't really making an impact, right? Because I was constantly doing the same thing, but I felt like it wasn't for me anymore. I feel like education was not for me, So it's been about 2 months already. Well, going on 3 that school has started, and to tell you the truth, I do not miss it. Right? I don't miss it. I actually enjoy this point in my life. I took a risk on not going back. Sometimes you have to step into the unknown, right? And all those educators out there, all those teachers that if you're in the same, you're in that point of life that you're not enjoying what you're doing, it's time to make a change, right? Really self-reflect on what's going on and why you don't like it. Do you see yourself in the next 5, 10, 15 years? Really sit back and really tell yourself, like, is this what I want to do, right? And I encourage you to, go ahead and, do some research. Go ahead and, if you can, do not sign the contract, right? Which, when I say contract, I'm talking about the school contract, right? Every time you sign a school contract, you, of course, are pretty much stating that you're going to be there for the school year, right? So I encourage if you are in the same position that you're not enjoying it, go ahead and it's time for you to look other ways. Other careers, other things that you enjoy, right? It's time for you to take your life back and do life on your own terms, right? So that's pretty much it for reason number 3. And again, life is too short, guys. Life is too short. You never know what's gonna happen tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, but for sure it's time to take your life back. It's time for you to decide on what you want to do. All right, reason number 4, not enough opportunity for growth, right? As I mentioned before, it takes time to actually move to some sort of administration level, which some teachers stick around for, some teachers never see or never get to be in that position. But for me, I felt that there was not enough opportunity growth in education, right? And as I mentioned earlier throughout the video, is that pretty much the only thing you could become quite and a rapid pace is probably some kind of leadership position, but even at that, it's not even a much difference, right? Of course, you do need the necessary credentials to become anything in administration, but it's also who you know, right? It's also who you know and how fast you get to that point. And again, to me, that wasn't enough for me to grow and to continue to grow, right? Because I wanted to grow, and anything I do, want to continue to grow. Try to do different things throughout my life, which I need to see myself. I know teachers that have been in the profession for 10 plus years and still receive the same salary, right? They dedicate most of their lives. They, their free time, not really spending time with their families, and the education field doesn't really appreciate you for that, right? It doesn't really compensate for you. So, there's teachers that, like I said, are still making the same salary to this day. Some years they increase a couple of cents, but it's nothing too crazy. All right, besides that, they give them, a small pen or something, something to recognize their commitment, but instead of increasing their pay or compensate them in some sort of way, didn't really see it in education. All right, hence is why the reason I left education, because I simply did not see myself, really grow in this profession, right? As I mentioned earlier, I was doing the same thing each and every day. The only thing that changed every year was the students. All right. So that's it for reason number 4. Let's go ahead and jump into reason number 5. All right, reason number 5, technology disruption. All right. So we all know technology is constant evolving, right? In the education profession, it's viewed as a great tool to integrate into your lessons, but it was extremely difficult to monitor the students in the classroom with technology, right? Students have access to not only their laptops, because, majority of the lessons were posted online, so every student had an access to a laptop and of course their cell phones, right? I know some districts are different. Some districts take up the phones, some teachers take up the phones, but I did not do all that. Didn't really want to deal with that, but it was a challenge. It was a challenge just to get their full attention throughout the period, right? Throughout the class period. Some of them, they find ways to scroll through social media, watch videos that had nothing to do with the lesson or anything school related. And of course, I tried my best to create lessons that did not involve so much technology, but it was still extremely too difficult, right? At times I felt like I was talking to myself, because some of the kids were just staring at the laptops, or on their phones in some sort of way. But technology has really has taken over, especially with the students, because it's hard to monitor 30 something students in the classroom. And I felt like I in a sense I felt like I was pretty much babysitting the kids when I told them, hey, make sure you're not on any other websites you're not supposed to be on. Make sure that you put up your phones. But again, it was extremely difficult. Some of them even would listen to music during the classroom, right? I had a couple of students that would walk in. Of course, when I was teaching, some of them had one headphones, or earphones, however you want to call it. They had their AirPods on. And they pretty much had it throughout the whole class period, and they pretty much tuned me out. So there was kids that would try to have either have their hair try to cover it, or I had one student, I'm not gonna mention his name. He would have it and he would turn like this, where every time I talked to him, he was just like this, looking like this, where I didn't see the other part of his ear. We had the earphone, right? But I always noticed it, always told him put it away, but somehow it always appeared on his ear. So yeah, so technology has become a extreme disruption in the classroom. Hopefully in the future they're able to monitor that, but that was the reason why I left as well. I felt like it was just too much to handle as far as everything that I was in charge of, lesson planning, making the lessons interactive, keeping up with grades, doing the other things that teachers do, and then on top of that, monitor their technology use. I felt like it wasn't for me. I'm not a babysitter. I'm not forcing anybody to learn. It's up to them. But just a heads up, technology is gonna continue to become a problem, not only for the district I was in, but all parts of the world. Technology is gonna be difficult if it's not either monitored correctly or pretty much regulated. So yep, that's the last and final reason. All right, guys, so now my closing thoughts. So I really didn't see myself in this career, right? I feel like I had so much potential, so much still to prove, that I decided to walk away. All right, I don't regret it. As I mentioned before, I feel like I've been the happiest I've ever been in a long time, and stress-free. Of course, I know stress is always gonna come in whatever I decide to do, but I want it to be good stress, right? I want it to be stress that I want to have in my life, not that I I'm obligated to have the stress, right? So hopefully I find something I enjoy, which I'm still on that mission to do. I know that there's a whole bunch of things that I wish to do, and hopefully I could accomplish them soon. I'm almost 30, guys. I'm 20 years old now. In about 2 years I'll be 30. So I just want to prove that it's my life, and I can do what I want to achieve. All right, so again, if you're in the same position, you're not happy with your current situation, whether you're a teacher or whether you're not a teacher, if you want to pursue something else, go ahead and go for it. If everything is right, if you have the right mindset, go ahead and do it. It's, as I mentioned before, life is too short. Right? Life is too short, and that's what I want to prove, right? That it's I wasn't happy. I haven't been happy yet. I haven't found that why in my life yet, and hopefully I find it soon. Probably this is my why. Who knows? All right. So, if you're a teacher, a former teacher, I would like to hear from you. So please comment below, and I'll see y'all soon. Peace.